Oh, hello. Happy Wednesday. Hey, Remas. How's it going, everyone? Hey, Smooth in a second. Thanks for the hydrate. How's it going, y'all? We're back. Oh, what a great time to change the radio here. There we go. Lo-fi study girl, that's appropriate. What we're doing here. Yeah, how's it going? I've had a good week. You know what I've been checking out recently? I've been checking out well, I'll talk about it in a second. I guess I should do some kind of intro. Hello, friends watching the VOD, or people watching for the first time. So Digital Iliad, we're working on an FTL-like, and now also an FTL-lite in Godot. And yeah, had some good work recently. I've been working to separate and generalize a lot of code that we have so far so that it will work in multiple projects. Like coming up with a common code architecture is not super trivial, but I think I'm pretty happy with what I've got, which is a kind of submodule with like very loose dependency management. Insofar as I don't make each submodule, I don't attach submodules that might be depended on as submodules of the submodule. I just put all the submodules into the main project that are necessary. So a little weird, but it will allow us to work on multiple games at a time using a common set of code and make it really easy to update the common code when it's needed. That'll be good for the main projects. It'll be good to a lesser extent for game jams. I think it'll work out. Hey, I heard you like submodules. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid that, Remus, because that's the danger of doing something like that, is like you've got a submodule in your submodule, and that submodule has its own submodules, and you're like... That's what I would do if I wanted them to be like proper packages with like dependency management and like you knew exactly what you needed to get it to work. But for me, I can just plug in the submodule and it will complain that it doesn't have access to certain code, and then I'll just add that other submodule. And it's not like I have this huge number of projects I'm working on, right? So it's not like too much. I think it's an okay trade-off for what we're doing. Hey, Nix. How's it going? Thanks for the hydrate. Keep drinking the coffee. How's everyone doing? You know what I've been playing for quote-unquote research that's been pretty good? Rusty's Retirement. Let me bring it up on Steam. I've been playing another quote-unquote, they're called casual indie simulation in strategy games. That's what they call idle games on Steam. So like Ropica's Idle Island is a casual indie simulation, no strategy. This game adds in some strategy by Mr. Morris Games. It came out early April, a couple years ago. It's really, it's one of those, it's probably one of the biggest of the desktop companion idle game things. It stars this little robot named Rusty who just kind of automatically works this farm. There's different kinds of farms. I've only unlocked the most basic farm. But there's like river farms, desert farms. I don't have a barn yet. I kind of want to get these little cows and piggies and stuff. I haven't gotten that far in the game yet. But yeah, it's interesting. You unlock different kinds of crops. There's a really strong automation and progression system to this game. And like, while I don't necessarily want all of that in my game, these little robots are intriguing to me. These little helper robots. And I'm thinking of some interesting ways that we could utilize the little helper robots. Oh, you got a new plant next. Nice. I'm specifically thinking for our game, it would be cool if like you needed the pilot to be in the chair to do any like course corrections or like stop and go and like land and take off and like all this stuff. It'd be cool if you could like a la Airplane, the great film Airplane, if you could like have like an inflatable autopilot that popped in that could take over so that the character could leave that spot and go do other things. And it would be also, I don't think we're gonna quite do the thing I like least about this is the format of like the way it sits on the bottom of the screen and it can't move. I think I like the way Ropica is set up with it's like more of a cutout and it can be repositioned. The inflexibility of this I don't like, but yeah, the robots are really neat. I could imagine a cargo loader, an unloader bot, or maybe like a repair bot, like little bots that you could get that could do tasks on your ship so that your ship was more able to just kind of do its thing of like going to the next location, loading cargo, unloading cargo, or passengers. Maybe passengers are a thing too, but Rusty's has been really interesting. I noticed some really interesting things about their achievements, which is that a lot of people have the achievements in this game, which is interesting because you don't normally see that. Like, you normally see a lot of people buy a game, they don't even open it up, let alone play it. But I think because of how idle this game is, like 90% of people have the initial sets of achievements. And then even where I would expect a drop off, like a significant drop off, it's still like 70% of these people have some like fairly advanced achievements. So that's an interesting thing to think about, is how the barrier, the cognitive load of these games, the fact that they continue running in the background, I think keeps people playing them for longer than they might otherwise. But yeah, I've been enjoying like running this in the background over the weekend and stuff while I'm doing other work. But yeah, that was interesting. I have some ideas about how to handle progression and some automation and stuff, and I'll keep playing this, and it's pretty cool. I'd recommend it. There's not a lot of other games like it. The bottom of your screen bundle. I should probably go through this bundle and look while the spring sale is still running on. Some of them are interesting. Most of them don't have a lot of players, so I should probably do some looking and seeing where are we seeing the players? What are people really interested in this genre? Ropica's is like the biggest inspiration for me, which has like I think 2,000 reviews. Rusty's seems to be bigger and more people are more aware of it, but it's still only got 6,000 reviews. So it's like clearly the ceiling for this kind of a game is pretty low. But I think the floor for this kind of game is also kind of high. So I think this is going to be like a good, I think trying to get into that casual indie simulation with at least our FTL-like is going to be interesting. Hey, Nix with a 35 stream streak. That's nice. Hey, Sapphire. Jacob. How's everyone doing? Trying to make lo-fi like Rusty's. Kind of. Only kind of. I think there's some really interesting things in Rusty's in terms of automation and progression that like Ropica's doesn't have. Hey, Nanigans. But I don't think I'm necessarily trying to do exactly the same thing. But I think it's got some really good lessons for us on what to do. How's everyone doing? How'd you feel about your Down to Jam results, Jacob? Mine were decidedly mid, which is fair. It's kind of what happens when you change direction after the first 2 days and end up making something very different than what you were originally planning. You don't have a lot of the refinement that I think people expect. Remove this. But yeah, we got to work on some stuff here. We have a game plan. Remember, we have a new game plan. Oh, thanks, Obsidian. There's an Obsidian command line interface. What? Interesting. Huh. I'll have to dig into that eventually. But yeah, we're working on our new game plan so that we can transition to making Lo-Fi Flyby. We want to, this year, we want a Steam page. We want to make that next quarter. We want to make a Steam page. Then we want to make a game trailer. And then we want to make a vertical slice, like a living demo. So this is a heady plan. You know, a quarter is only 12 weeks. I'm kind of giving myself through the end of March to kind of visualize this process and work on a plan. Make that happen, but that's not a lot. Quarter is only about 12 weeks. So that's about 12 weeks for a Steam page, you know, another 12 weeks for a game trailer, and another 12 weeks for some kind of demo. But I want to move. I want to get into this. I think the time of, you know, working on systems indefinitely open-ended is kind of over. I think we need to make I think the bar for justifying our spending time on stuff like this is gonna be raised. I think we're gonna be raising the bar. You were a bit surprised after seeing the rage you caused. But they gotta respect you, you know. You might induce rage amongst the game devs, but they'll still show respect. Nix, having a little hydroponic setup that your character sometimes check on would be a cool addition. I like how this acronym has have you fully embraced it. Make that they can like grab wheat from it. Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. Having like a water or food, having like a food production thing. Maybe that would be an upgrade. Maybe like your character's always just sitting around eating like chips and stuff like that, but you could set up like a some kind of like hydroponic basin or something. That'd be cool. Nanigans, you're doing good. You think you're starting to hone in on your pixel art shader effects? Nice. You got some compositor effects that are making voxels look like hand-drawn pixel art. Trying to refine it to make it more stable, then add smooth camera movement and stuff again. Man, that seems like a good approach. I think if I had a 3D workflow, that would have been a good approach for me. But yeah, some stuff I've been working on has been generalizing. Oh, there we go. Generalizing a lot of our code so that we can break it out into like standardized like modules and stuff. So like the ND component system needs to be self-sufficient. It can depend on other code bases like the integer vectors and stuff like that, which would be their own kind of module. But it's pointed out to me there are some interdependencies that makes it kind of tough to do this. Like this game script node thing is very central, and I realize I want to be able to like query the ECS world without necessarily referencing the game node. So changing some code to work on that. I realize the list of component types needs to not be static. It needs to be something I can add to. Because each game is going to have its own list of components. And so I don't want to have this really static definition of components. I'm not going to work on that now. But I am working on like a slightly separate version of this code that's meant to be standalone. So like we need to do something else. I mean, it's fine for the entity ID to be hard locked as a component. But like instead of having an enum, this should probably be some kind of bit field so we can support some maximum number of component types and we can just add components to them and they just get registered to a specific flag in the bit field. And they're not hard coded then. I need to work on something like that. But I'll work on that in my own time for now. Because there's other stuff I think we need to work on for our stuff here. But yeah, moving to make the ECS world a static class so that we can call all these functions without a reference to the game node, I think is good. If I really care, I might add some way of supporting more than one ECS world. At the moment, I don't care about that. But there are use cases where it is nice to have multiple worlds. Like for instantiation especially. It's nice to be able to generate a whole bunch of entities in the background and then move them over when they're ready. Stuff like that. That's a workflow that I would use in like Unity. But yeah, we do still have a to-do list for the tile block editor. We kind of need to pick the next thing we're gonna work on. We need to fix the auto tiler. Tile selection overlay is, I think, done. I think we finished that recently. We can verify that that's true. Jacob, you've got a few people saying maybe you should make it a quick game on Steam. Now you got to think about that. Puzzle games are notoriously not great for Steam. Honestly, it wasn't the game you wanted to make initially. You do like it, but you never imagined being a puzzle game maker. Yeah, to be fair, I never imagined being like a cozy game maker either. You know, it was kind of weird. You figure it out. Yeah, I saw the announcement video for Tabugi. I saw that they're going to keep working on their game, Terra Nympha, which is, I think, a great idea. I'm probably never going to update mine. I think it was pretty much the best it was going to be. And post game, I try to be very critical about post jam support for my own games, because my first jam I spent like months doing post jam, and I'm really pleased with it. I really love the remastered version of A Following Wind. I'm like really glad I went through that and brought the game up to what my vision of it would be. But since then, I have been deeply skeptical of any kind of post jam support. But I love that Down to Jam has that this up for more, like structured stuff. I think that'd be really cool. I think if I was happier with the game, I would be really interested in doing something like that. I think the selection stuff is okay, and we fixed the palette. It's really stupid that the palette is just one block now, but you know, we'll fix that. If we go through, we make all of this. I think the selection stuff is fine. It seems to be fine. The selection overlays. I think we can mark this as done. And then actually, what if I do compound selections? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Ooh, there's some... Oh, the corners. It's the corners again. Corner behavior isn't well defined. So the auto tiler needs work, is what I need to refine. There's some corner cases in the auto tiler that are broken. Yeah, I think this stuff is okay. So if I do this and I go like this. So we don't see, you know what would be interesting? It would be interesting if the selections were retained for like cutaway purposes. So like instead of just looking up a single coordinate for the cutaway, we looked up the cursor bounds. Or maybe the selection bounds? One or both. Because I feel like if you select across multiple rooms, you'd want the cutaway to continue to respect that. You wouldn't want like... You wouldn't want the cutaway just to go here. You're like, oh no, I'm selecting things across multiple rooms. I should be able to see those. So maybe it's an area that we need to be triggering. That's interesting. I haven't thought about that. I don't exactly want to work on that right now, but that's a good idea. That's an interesting idea. Hey, Arneo. Have fun in the sauna. Do you feel you learned more with the jam for this game? Since they share a good chunk of tech. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is they don't share tech. So I did learn in terms of I need to build a templated version of some of this tech, specifically in GDScript, so that I can use it in jams. That's something I'm going to work on tonight, off stream, is my jam add some of that functionality to my jam template for Ludum Dare, which is coming up fast. It's only a few weeks away. Yeah, it wasn't copy paste, just the thought process around it. Yeah, it's a good point because it lets you know what is and isn't like very tightly coupled, either conceptually or in practice. Yeah. So like this program, this game, and Lo-Fi Flyby, these ones don't utilize a tile map renderer, like a tile map layer renderer. They utilize our little custom canvas item drawing process. But like I probably for now, I don't think I want to do that in a game jam. So what I want to do is I want to make like I want to take my tile map layer approach for this and make a nice template so that if I'm like, oh, I either need just one layer of tile map layers, or I need my tile map layer stack, especially, which is my like 3D stack of tile map layers. I do want to be able to just have that ready to go. I don't want to have to rebuild that. Yeah, it's serious time to spend in a very short game jam. If you're in a long game jam, it's like I think you can absorb it, but when I'm doing these 72-hour or 48-hour game jams, there isn't time to be recreating tools, right? So tile selection overlay is, I think, pretty much done, except I kind of want the cutaway system to interact with them, so I'm actually going to put this back here. So we're still working on these under review, but we do need to just finish some of this stuff. So I think the next batch we want to work on is probably the history and the save load stuff. That's probably the next big one. Because once we have that, we can actually start working on a ship, right? Because we can save it and load it and modify it and save it and load it. So I think this is the next grouping that we want to start. I still do eventually want like a block face tool, an invalid block mask. Resizable block buffer would be good, because the Lo-Fi Flyby ship is going to be much smaller than a regular ship, so it would be good if I could use whatever the smallest buffer is that fits it. So the default and the max size is a 64 by 64 by 64 cube. That's the biggest size block construction we can support. But for like, if I don't need it, it would be nice to be able to drop that down to a 32 by 32 by 32. Maybe even a 16 by 16 by 16. That seems too small. But honestly, the first ship might actually be that small. Our original ships, when we were first designing this game, we maxed out at 16. And we had some decent stuff from that, but yeah, the progression is what I've been thinking a lot about in terms of the Lo-Fi Flyby progression, having played all this Rusty's Retirement and thinking about robots or even just additional crew members, because like a robot just needs a wall outlet, right? But like an additional crew member can do everything, but they need like a bunk and they need like resources or something. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see how I want to build out the progression. It's not a question I have to answer immediately either, which is nice. Just stuff to just be bouncing around inside my brain. There's some stuff I want to do before we move on here that I don't think is totally represented here, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm just going to bounce around here a little bit. The system execution order stuff is something we really need to look at because we still have this issue of this background thread task. And right now, it's really minor, the way this expresses itself. It only expresses itself with a couple of things. One of them is when you move the cursor, it takes a second for the overlay to catch back up, which is interesting. And the other is when we try to scroll in to something, we get a weird delay. We get a delay and or a fail for it to actually do the thing that we asked it to do. Whoop. So when we try to scroll, it doesn't always succeed. Seems to be succeeding pretty consistently. Oh yeah, there it is. You can see it flicker and then fail to actually do it. Yeah, like that. So at the moment I can live with this. Like every time it flickers, that's a failed scroll. Because the cursor mapping system updated, but the cutaway system didn't update, so the cursor just ended up back where it started. After spending a frame trying to scroll further into the ship. But this is something I can live with for now. But it is something to think about. Rhiannon, you should make a tool script to generate the actual tile map layer nodes for the jam template. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Because, yeah, managing that stuff by hand is annoying. And for the canvas item one that we want to use for this, we actually need not a tool script, excuse me, but we do need a script that can create additional canvas items on demand, depending on how many compartments we have to render. But yeah, that's a good idea. You could try to add in auto testing to the game. Oh, for like exploring progression and like how long it takes to do things and stuff. Yeah. I don't know what that would look like. I think auto testing like that is really good when you're like making like an RPG and you have all these different skills and you have this combinatorics of items and skills and abilities, and you have to test the combination of all of them and make sure they either do. If they break something, it's not in, it's in a fun way. Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. I imagine I'll just have it running in the background all the time. Oh, there's some weird nitpicky interface stuff with Rusty's too that I want to make sure I avoid. So, what do I want to do today? What are we going to work on today? So we could move the canvas item drawing system over to a compartment-based rendering instead of the Z-level rendering. We could do that. It's not a bad idea. We could... Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. That's probably worthy of a card, a task card. You'd say like compartment based. What do I say? Per compartment canvas item draws. Something like that. Because right now we're doing it per Z level, and I do not want to do it per Z level in the long run. Is there a way to get this lined up horizontally? The alignment stuff in this is so tricky. Whatever, that's fine. Yeah, let's work on this maybe. I don't have a terribly pressing reason to work on anything else. Hey, Jay Tarrant, has anyone done the Godot tutorial online? Hey, Imperial. Welcome in. How's it going? Even more generally, like checking if a room is correct, auto building that with one button or something. Yeah, though I think the automated testing thing I most want to do right now is the invalid block tile mask. And that would just be a system that would look through and be like, oh, you can't actually put, you know, groupings of walls like that. That's not allowed. Because we have to do that retroactively. I'm not going to be able to constrain the build tool to only allow you to place things that are legal. It's going to be like, you can place whatever you want, and then the system will like highlight a thing and be like, we can't save this like this. Like maybe you have a door, maybe you've laid out a door structure that isn't represented in the system. Like you've made an L-shaped door and the system is like, you can't have an L-shaped door. I think that'll be the first big any kind of automated block space analysis thing that we're going to be doing. Hey, Magoo. How's it going? Jay Tarrant, when you say the Godot tutorial online, I haven't really done any Godot tutorials except in the docs. They have some nice ones. They have your first 2D game and they have your first 3D game. I think I only did the 2D game, but it's cool. It's got like a whole I feel like I did another 2D game tutorial that was not this, that was more involved. Was it this one? Oh no, that's the same thing but in 3D. Oh, that's neat. I haven't done that either. And there's some cool ones here. I really try to avoid tutorials. I don't know why. I think it's like I'll read stuff a lot to figure out how to do something, but there's something about doing a tutorial. I need like a concrete reason to be doing it in my project. Gotta dodge tutorial hell. That's a good way to sum it up, Jacob. What have you been up to, Magoo? That's exactly what you started following? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Those are good. There's some other... the ones we've been talking to people about otherwise is we've been telling people about Brackies. Brackies is doing Godot tutorials now. And they have some good ones. So Brackies, spelled like that. They have some good stuff. They have an how to make 3D games in Godot tutorial that has 1.5 million views and is about an hour long. That seems like a really good one. How to make 3D games in Godot. I haven't done this, so again, I've heard that these are good. And Brackies is a trusted name in this kind of thing. Also, the Godoniers have been said they are really good. So that's another channel I would recommend. The Godoniers, a much smaller channel, but they have really detailed and more specific ones where they're like, here's an hour on saving and loading games, which honestly, I should probably watch. And then they have some input mapping stuff. Oh, they have an automated testing video. I should watch that too. Transforms in Godot. I should probably watch that. I've been having some hard times with camera rotations. But yeah, I'd check out Brackies and the Godoniers. There's probably some other ones too. Was it useful for grasping how stuff interacts with one another, or should you just read what each component node does? You watch some Brackies as well. I don't know. I think it depends on your learning style. I'm the kind of person that just wants to know about the specific feature, and then I'll work out how it relates to other stuff. So I'm more likely the person who just reads the page on like a specific component and then try some stuff out. But I think in terms of if you're still establishing a workflow, some of those tutorials can be really good because they can show you how you would build something sequentially in the engine. Rhiannon, another easy invalid block config would be a block sitting in space all alone, not connected to anything. Oh yeah, that's another invalid block check is like, are all of our blocks actually connected, or are there block quote-unquote orphans that have been left around? Yeah, no worries. No worries. If you get stuck, we're always happy to help in like the Discord or whatever. Hey, Titan Robo Duck. How's it going? Nanigans, you're happy to dig into tutorial if there's a specific thing you're trying to figure out, and then you usually just kind of skim what you need. You don't really like following tutorials in general. You find you learn a lot better trying to problem solve on your own. Yeah, I like to dive in very precisely into the problem I'm exactly trying to solve, but I find myself reinventing the wheel all the time. So I think if you don't want to do that, getting a more general of like, here's all the things you need to do to make this happen, I think you can find cool stuff that can save you some time if you can get someone good to show you that. The Brackezy tutorial you want is a shading tutorial, Titan RoboDuck. Shading is good. Shading is fun. And definitely one of the harder things to get into. Shaders and stuff. All right, so we're going to just set up per compartment canvas item draws. Right now, our drawing is based on the Manhattan distance of the block, which is just you add up all the individual component coordinates. And so when we're doing it like layer 0, and then all the layers one forward, or all the blocks one forward, and then another, and then another. And this is nice in terms of the Z indexing is super clean. But the thing that's not nice is it means that if this 4x4 room changes, that means that we're probably updating all 10 of these layers. So that sucks. If you're like changing one room and you update 10 canvas item layers, I would much rather have this whole room be on one layer, on one canvas item. And then if you've got a room in front, that room can be on another one. And that just limits the total amount of draws because we can basically ignore most of the layers if we aren't actively looking at them. There's some questions that we'll need to answer about that. And there will be some amount of overdraw based on how we handle the walls. But I'm interested. I'm interested in trying to solve to set something up like that. So let's probably just look at that. Not quite sure what else to work on today, if I'm being honest. I'm so concerned with like the standardized code and spinning off multiple projects off of the same set of code while maintaining the code efficiently that like I've been more interested in that, like rewriting the ECS world to be able to do that. None of that's in this code base, so at some point we're going to need to figure that out. But we have a separate lo-fi flyby project folder now, which I think is the correct decision, because at a certain point, lo-fi flyby is going to become concrete, and we might end up wanting to do things a certain way for that project that we wouldn't want to do generally in a more flexible or a more open-ended project. So at a certain point, yeah, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it, right? Titan, wrapping your head around it's super hard for you, but it's such as most things till it clicks. Yeah, exactly. All right, so one of the first things that we would need to resolve with a system like this shenanigans. You find yourself reinventing the wheel a lot. You're too opinionated on your own projects. You don't want to duct tape together other people's solutions. That's the problem for me with a tutorial, is because I'm almost never trying to do something exactly the same way as the tutorial maker is doing it. I usually have a different context and a slightly different need. And a lot of tutorials just fall apart. A lot of tutorials just fall apart if you're trying to do it in a different context, or you're trying to achieve something different. And depending on how complicated the tutorial is and how much your implementation is just like copy pasted, that can be really hard to change, right? All right, so what we have now is we have this tile mosaic thing. I'm probably not going to call it this forever, but that's my word for it right now. I'll probably call it like a canvas item stack or something. Right now, this is hard-coded to be 192 layers. The nice thing about this solution is actually kind of one of the reasons I do want to use it. Going forward, like rather than the tile map stack, is because you don't need a separate thing for each face. So like when you're doing the tile map stack, if you're rendering it per face, then you need a tile map layer per face. So if you're rendering a cube, in our isometric perspective, you need 3 tile map layers to render each face of the cube, X, Y, Z. But if we do this canvas item drawing thing, you just have the one canvas item, and the system writes out each of those individual faces. So I kind of prefer that to my tile map stack. But the tile map stack is easier to use for a game jam. So I don't know. I have to think about what I want to support. I need to come up with a clever way to refer to this. I also need to better understand what a canvas layer is, because we have all these canvas items. I don't love this. I don't love that when I press into the search docs thing, it's like, how about all this? The node used for independent rendering of objects from a 2D scene. Oh, so these would not interact with each other. Maybe I actually do want something like this. Canvas item derived nodes that are direct or indirect children of a canvas. Because we could have a canvas layer per compartment, and then we could have canvas items within the compartment to handle unusual shapes. That's not a terrible idea, actually. Whoa. Canvas layer is drawn on one specific viewport, cannot be shared between multiple viewports. What if I just have one viewport? Can I draw multiple canvas layers to the one viewport? Embedded windows are placed on layer 1024. Canvas items on layers 1025 and higher appear in front of embedded windows. I don't know what that means either. I have to figure some of this stuff out, because Lo-Fi Flyby is going to have a lot to do with this. Oh, these are UI windows. Sure. I gotta figure out what our cutout semi-transparent window setup is gonna be for Lo-Fi Flyby. It'll probably impact how I set this up. Canvas layers are great for UI. I see that. I could see this getting complicated for compartments. Yeah, that might not work. My idea might not work. Rhiannon, you're in the same boat in terms of shaders. You've been working on some shaders for 3D pixel art. It's been fun. You definitely don't understand what you're doing. Yeah, shaders are weird. Shaders are weird. Rhiannon, you love a tutorial. You can spin up in a new scene project to learn something before you cannibalize it for your purposes once you understand. Yeah, there's a cleanliness to figuring that out. True. Titan, your problem with most tutorials, they're aiming for a 10-minute video. Most issues you have, you need like one specific thing that can be explained in 5 seconds. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're more YouTube short tutorials. We might have just fixed a bug that you had, Titan, from reading that part out loud. That's funny. Yeah, I'm a little... Oh, there's a canvas layers tutorial. What's that look like? The docs are confusing to me because here's like the canvas layer node page. And then here's like a tutorial, a docs page that has like a more detailed understanding of what canvas layer stuff is set up as. Node 2Ds. Canvas layer 1. Canvas layer -1. They're independent of tree order, which I kind of like. There's some cases I'm trying to think about that I think are going to be like really complicated. And I got to figure out how I want to handle these. So like, let's make some weird cases, right? Let's make some weird rooms. Docs can be strange at times. Yeah. Like, I get that they want to explain some concepts, you know, separately from, like, the node page. But sometimes it can be like, I need to look at the canvas item page, but which of the 3 canvas item pages do I need to look at? Like, but that's what happens when you have, you know, open source docs that have been iterated on over all that time. And it's not that big a problem. So, a room like this can be rendered easily, trivially. But what if there's like... My favorite example is the room inside the room, right? Which could easily come into play because you have like a hallway system and then you have like a room between the hallways. Oh. Why does that do that? Oh, because I'm poking a hole in it. That shouldn't do anything. Huh, that was weird. I think when I erase, I can accidentally end up in like a lower tile or something. Like I put an extra set of floors here. And then what? When I erased the floor... Yeah, so for a brief moment, it got confused about where we were. Which, honestly, I think I could accept that for now. So if we have something like this, we have like a room within a room. The cutaway system struggles with this. So like here we're in this room.
Maximum warp.
Fine. And we can actually, well, we actually can't go behind this room now. Why can't we? The in-room cutaway system should be helping with this. But it's not. So what if I just put like a pillar here? How does the cutaway system think about that? Oh, it doesn't. Okay, well that's something we need to fix because we need to be able to maneuver around a room like this. Yeah, I'm trying to set up a test where you're like, you have a room that needs to be rendered in front of and behind another room. And if we put the compartments on different layers, that wouldn't work. So that's not something we can do, really. That's going to be tricky. There's a reason why you usually render per sprite and you don't try to do these fancy things. It makes some stuff hard. Okay, but what we need to do is we need our cutaway system to be fully operational here. It's not really doing anything. Thanks for the maximum warp node, Joel. How are you doing? How are you feeling post D2 Jam rating period? I think you did quite well for art, didn't you? In our category. Yeah, third place for graphics. Congrats. That's great. That reaction was delayed. I heard it and I was distracted. Alright, where's the cutaway system? I have to figure out what I want to do for tracking some of these systems. These general systems that work together. Like the canvas item drawing system. Is that going to need to be a submodule? It's like, I kind of feel like it does. I need to figure out how I want to Hey, thanks, Pheasant. Appreciate that. Happy Wednesday. You stole my third place. I mean, I didn't make any art for that game, really. Your art's great. Your art's fun. You didn't steal my third. I got 6th. I got 6th in graphics, so you didn't steal it from me. No, that was not great performance for me, which is fine. That's kind of what I expected after we had to, you know, pretty drastically cut things and change things. Oh, overall place? Yeah, you were ahead of me. You were right ahead of me. I think that was well earned. You had a fun game. I made a little toy, but you made a fun game. All right, cutaway system. Cutaway system. There it is. So why aren't you doing what I expect you to do? Oh, there is no cutaway interior blocks. Oh, that's not good. Why did I get rid of this? Why did I think this was an okay to get rid of thing to get rid of? Can we do this in a single iteration though? So if not room bounds contains and block halls dot has. So should I just do it like this? Should I say or room bounds dot contains block chords and probably going to need the cursor chords field in here. Oh, we're heading into ads. Hold on to your ads. You know what splitting my code off into different submodules has been doing? It's been getting me to commit a lot more often and a lot more specifically. Because in this main project, I've been just doing like one commit at the end of each stream. That's like such a bad pattern. That is a strong anti-pattern. It's like, hey, I just finished doing like 3 or 4 hours of work on the game. Time to just commit everything I did. I'm starting to observe feature-based commits more. All right, so if we are contained in the room bounds, we just want to also know if and cursor chords dot any no, what we want to do is we want to say block chords dot any less than cursor chords. Oh, we don't want any less than, we want any greater than. I'm gonna reverse the order of these for no good reason. Magoo, all right. Take it easy. Take it easy, Magoo. Good to see you as always. Have a great rest of your day here. Was that just our first ad break? Oh man, okay. Just an hour in. We got lots of time. All right, so that this should do is this should let us cut away behind objects in a room. I'm gonna make this test area bigger so we can do more weird stuff with it. Thank you. Thanks, Magoo. Missed you as well. We're gonna have we have some kind of slightly irregular streaming schedule. I know we've been taking a lot of time off and doing game jams and stuff, but we'll be here. We'll be here every day for the rest of this week. We'll do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week. Next week I might need to cancel some streams. I've got someone visiting in the city. But this week we're all good, I think. Is it next week? Oh no, the week after. Yeah, so the next couple weeks we should have something resembling normalcy. But we're just doing too many things. Just doing too much. Doing too much. I think I might need like a bit of a moratorium on game jams after Ludum Dare. I think I might need to take a like, I don't know if, like, I might need to not do any during the summer or something. So we have a pretty tight deadline that we're putting ourselves through for all this stuff. Whoa. Ghost Block. What are you doing here, Ghost Block? There we go. Well, that was concerning. We're gonna make a big room, and then we're just gonna start messing around with the draw order. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Why are you being like this? Okay, that's because you were updating the flood fill. This is good. So if we do something silly, like we put some like pylons around, so we'll run this pylon up to the ceiling or whatever, yeah. Wish I could tell more easily that I reached the ceiling. Okay, well now we're just being fully blocked off. That's not right. So need to be all greater than. I think it needs to be all greater than or equal to. Or maybe all greater than. Yeah. Oops. Oopsies. All greater than. Oh yeah, that's another thing about Rusty's retirement that I don't like, that I want to be a lot more careful about with this game, is Rusty's, for all that it's doing, it's super inflexible about the layout, which I don't like, because the two layouts they give you the option of are both really potentially disruptive. I like rope because like it's a resizable window that's semi-transparent that you can move anywhere. So I like that. But the other thing is Rusty's actually uses a lot of system resources just to run a little desktop companion game. And that's something I want to be super careful about with Lo-Fi Flyby. I want it to be very respectful of like system resources, which means really pushing for savings in terms of things like rendering and not processing things that don't need to be processed. All right, so we're waiting for the flood fill system to update. It's updated. Okay, so now we have this room. So if I add like a column that runs from the floor to the ceiling over here. Okay, that's better. So now it only cuts off. This is interesting what's going on right here. This is another corner issue with the auto tiler. But yeah, so if I move my cursor behind the block, it goes away. So we want that. So then if I make like a sub room in here, like we make an extra room that's smaller than this room. I don't know why one would have something like this, but this is good because it's like a notoriously like weird. Okay, so this is interesting. It gets really confused about room placement when I do that. That's okay. That's okay. We're not worried about, this is one of those things where it's like, if we were working on this tool totally open-ended without any deadlines, I would go pretty crazy to try to make all this stuff work. But because we're not, we're actually trying to do something with this, I'm less concerned about making it perfect. This is a tool that for now only I use, so it can be kind of janky. That shouldn't be possible either. I see where the problem is here. It's the so-called wall problem. It makes me kind of want to go back to including information about the rooms that the wall is in. Like this column doesn't think it's in a room. The system knows it's in a room, but like the column doesn't have any room data because it's occupied. The only blocks that know what room they're in are empty blocks. And I'm like, there was a good reason to do this. Okay, so now we can at least cursor behind a room like this. We can do something like this, right? But there's still another problem. Well, there's a couple of problems. And actually, I think this is one of the reasons why we stopped including wall information. Or, excuse me, why we stopped considering walls to be parts of rooms. Because if I'm on this wall here, this wall thinks it's in this room, and it also thinks it's in this room. And so the cutaway system would cut away all of this, which is maybe exactly what you would want from a usability standpoint. Maybe. But yeah, from a canvas layer standpoint, the problem here is that like This room needs to be rendered both in front of and behind the room that it's in. And I can't really achieve that if I put things on separate canvas layers. So I think I can't do that. We can do canvas items per room though, for sure. And then that's nice because, like, let's say stuff is changing in this room. That doesn't necessarily mean that we need to draw this outer room just because stuff is changing in this room. The exception to that are these walls. So, like, are these walls considered part of this room? Are these walls considered part of this room? Are we going to draw them in both places? Are we going to draw them once for this canvas item and then draw them again for this canvas item, just in case the cutaway changes? So there's some considerations to be had here. I can also imagine some more complicated cases than just this case, but this case is pretty illustrative of the problem. I don't know what's happening where we kick into this. It's weird. Let's stop drawing the vertical lines. Just because the cursor is in line. Oh. I know what's happening there. That's easy to fix. This is actually a requirement for everybody. So we're actually going to say if block halls has, I'm going to say this and I'm going to reposition this again. So that's the complexity, is why sorting the rooms against each other. Actually, that's not hard. That's not hard. So yeah, we actually need a whole script that can, like, reposition canvas items based on the Y sort position of the thing that's going to be drawn. So it's like the Y sort for that room should be the forward corner, like the furthest forward little corner piece. But are we going to need to use multiple canvas items if we want to draw a room that is irregularly shaped? The answer to which I think is we do. And then we need a structure that can actually handle that. I still think this is good because it means we're not going to be updating. We're not going to be redrawing rooms that are either totally cut away right now or otherwise not actively changing. Or even if they are actively changing, but we're not looking at them, then we don't need to update them. So I think we're going to have a nice, like, room-based occlusion calling thing. Song. I changed my audio settings the other day. I think I actually messed this up a little bit. I'm going to turn this up so that we hear the same volume here. Well, I guess no, we don't, because I duck this a lot. I want to hear more of this. I enjoy this music. Hey, Ezra, how's it going? How are you doing? How many projects we up to? Give me a project count. Game launching soon? You joke, Ezra. But actually, we've established a quote unquote new 12. Your project count has doubled since we last talked. I feel like it was at 6 or 7 the last time we talked. So I don't want to hear it. But yeah, after we have updated the game plan that we've had for the last few years, we're gonna do it this time. Don't mind the scratch outs. We've identified a small subset of the features that we need to make a little side project version of the game that we want to make, like a stepping stone. And this year we are gonna make a Steam page, a game trailer, and a demo. We're gonna do it. We're moving from delivering on scope to delivering on deadline. That's what we're doing. We're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. So yeah, we are trying to be a bit more aggressive. Where's the window I want? Here we go. At least the most recent one is locked in for launch. Yeah, that's awesome. When are you launching? Give me a Steam page or something. Hey, Skywalk. Ezra did a little game jam. You decided, let's just really convert the jam submission to something people want to pay for. Goal is 10-hour gameplay, $5 worth. That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Hey, Dust per 89. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. You're in the process of polishing and finishing up a new gameplay. That's awesome. Targeting free demo for June Next Fest. Ooh, I heard that the deadline to submit to that is in April. Is that right? Stretch goal, low polish, early access. That sounds awesome. It sounds like you are on track. I wonder what you know how people will talk about how there's like a ratio for video editing to like final video length, where they'll be like, oh, 1 minute of audio or 1 minute of video is like an hour of editing. I know some people will say it's like 10 hours of editing or 20 hours of editing. I don't remember what people say, but there's a number. And I wonder what that number is for gameplay, of like, how long does it take to make 1 hour of gameplay? Is it 100 hours? Is it 1,000 hours? Trying. Yeah, you figured you might as well try practicing for marketing and launching with a bit lower commitment project before dumping all your effort into your Uber game. That's what I want to do too. Game jams reminded me of that there are things you only learn when you ship. Like, no matter how long and thorough your game development process can be, until you ship something, there's that part of the iteration loop doesn't close, right, until you ship, and it's like it's all wheels within wheels. I feel like gameplay is like 0 hour gameplay for like 2 weeks of effort, and then suddenly it's like 1-2 hours gameplay. Yeah, I think it depends on the game, or the genre, but that is something I like to think about. Yeah, the side project we're working on is very much like an idle game kind of deal. It's like using my tech, but with a lot of the strategy layer stripped out, and we're kind of just trying to make a lo-fi kind of like little idle game version, like a little ship that could just sit in like a corner of your screen and go about its little cargo runs and whatever little antics. I want to make one of those, get a demo up, because there's so much stuff. Making a strategy game is so hard because you need almost every system in place before you can evaluate any of them. Like, you almost need the whole game to be done before you even know if you're on the right track. Why am I testing this? I created the wrong thing. Delete. But that's awesome. Where's that Steam page? Hit me with that Steam page, Ezra. Did you already do that? I need to wish list it. You're doing polish first before doing the Steam page? Crazy. That's crazy. Do people just do Steam page first before they lock polish visual? I don't know, honestly. But I'm realizing that I could basically fake. Okay, so something horrible has happened. What's going on here? The way I've rewritten the cutaway system, nothing seems to work now. That's cool. I don't know. But yeah, I realized that I could just fake a Steam page. All I need is the content. And I could fake the Steam page and then actually, you know, make the game. I'm working my way towards that. I'm sure some people think that's not the right way to do it. Okay, this is something. That's the exterior cutaway. Okay, the interior cutaway is totally broken. That's unfortunate. What did I do to this conditional? Oh, and. Oops. And this or this. And actually, this is like parenthetically connected here. How do you make your page honest and visually appealing before finishing the visual direction? It's definitely tricky. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about putting it up when I just have the basic content. Like I'm thinking about mocking up screenshots of like ship, like cargo holds and a finished ship design, and then like maybe the interiors. Like I feel like I could mock up a bunch of interiors and communicate honestly what like the vibe is going to be without having any of that stuff playable. And so that's why I think I could do the Steam page pretty quickly. We've been working on our characters. I want to work on the ship layout soon. But yeah, I'm thinking you can fake it and then make it. Fake it, then make it. That's gonna be my policy. And then the game trailer will be like probably also similarly mocked up. Of like maybe I'll script a bunch of isolated like scripted sequences of like characters going about and doing things. And then film that. And then put that up as the trailer before I even really have anything working. I just feel like for people in our position that are streaming the dev regularly, not having a Steam page is like almost like wasting all of those passive engagement, right? Of people just coming by, checking out the stream, looking at a VOD. Like not having a Steam page that you can send them to seems like a huge missed opportunity, yeah. That's what I feel bad, because occasionally YouTube has been like showing my stuff to a lot of people. Hey, Nightska, how's it going? Speaking of YouTube, how are you doing? Yeah, occasionally it's been like, hey, here's a bunch of viewers. And then I'm like, oh, that's great. They're not going anywhere. You get asked about page every time you stream. Yeah, exactly. That's why you got to get it up. I mean, you got 12 projects. You only need one Steam page. Fake it till you make it, unless faking it constitutes actual criminal fraud. And then even then our system doesn't seem to care as long as you make it. Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of forgiveness in the system. All right, this and this or this. Okay, I think that's correct. Conditional. But yeah, that's the only way I think I'm going to be able to get a Steam page up. Because I have a 3-part plan and there's 3 quarters left in the year. And I would like to have some kind of demo up by the end of the year. So I have some time to work on it before the next GDC. I set my like annual game dev plan on like based on like GDC years. It's like having a fiscal calendar, but for game dev. All right, okay, I fixed that. So then if we do the thing, so did I fix this thing though? Like what happens if I make a pillar? Oh, that is horribly messed up. I see why I turned this off. Because it's actually cutting it out while I'm trying to place it, which is not a good... Oh. Now what's it doing? Now it's just locked in, fully locked. Let's see. Okay, I see why I turned that off. Here, we can say if Block Hills has this, if Block Halls has, sure, and roombounds.contains. Oh, I totally messed this whole thing up. I'm dumb. Not roombounds contains. Well, I guess we don't care about the roombounds contains except for the additional check. So if roombounds contains, we also want to know, we want to say block coords dot all greater than cursor coords, or if the room doesn't contain, then that's fine. So we can say that. And this, we also want to say, and not cursor. Ooh, we want the cursor bounds in here. I'm going to pull the cursor bounds down. Cursor bounds equals game.input.cursor bounds. Because I'm realizing we actually don't want to cut away something that the cursor is actively selecting or working on. So I'm going to pass the cursor bounds in for that purpose. Do we want this too? We probably want to apply that for both of these, but let's work on this one first. Okay, well, that sounds exciting about your project. I can't wait to see more about that. June Next Fest will be here any minute now. It feels like. But yeah, I'm really trying to wrap up work on some of these systems, so we can move on to some things that are a bit more concrete, a bit less, you know, speculative here, as far as these systems that I'm not going to need for a long time, like these complex design tools that can just be, that'll do for now. They don't need to be incredible to use. Cursor bounds contains, and not cursors, block coords. That is quite a condition. Here, what if we do it like this? This or this, and block halls dot contains block coords. There we go. Okay, so now if I'm working on a block area, it shouldn't cut it away even if it normally would. So it lets me actually see what I'm working on, which is nice. Hey, Cake Hug, how's it going? Happy Wednesday. How are you doing? Okay, so if I send up a column here, the column shouldn't get cut away until I place it, and now if I move the cursor down behind it. Okay, there's still a weird auto tiling issue, which is strange. All greater than. I feel like this doesn't qualify as an all greater than. I don't think. But it's still being weird. But now we have that this core problem that I'm talking about, which is the dreaded room within a room, right? So we have a room within our room. There was a Pylos before Pylos. And there's another Pylos besides. Okay, so I don't like that where I'm like manually creating these things and it's making the cutaway system be very jumpy. I kind of like this. And then if I'm out here, I can do like this. I really like this idea we were talking about the other day where you establish like a cutaway mask for each compartment. So you can, if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, you can hard code in a cutaway. So you can be like, regardless of whatever's happening, I want you to do the cutaway exactly like this. Or maybe you can specify like a no cutaway. Something like that. Something where you can like bake the cutaway, I think will be good for lo-fi flyby. Because the ships are small and the view is kind of a bit more static. So the auto tiler is pretty messed up. Fairly confused by all this, especially whatever's happening here. Which is strange. We don't see that on the exterior, do we? No, so that's something that's happening in here. I gotta figure out why. All good? Oh yeah, good. Yeah, it's all right, K-Cook. We're hoping to change gears soon and kind of suspend work on some of these bigger strategy systems and try to work a little bit more on content. Spend more of our time working on content and a bit less of our time working on systems. But there's a few stuff I kind of want to wrap up first. Mostly around how you navigate a space like this and how we handle the canvas item drawing. We at least want a canvas item per room. But for rooms that are compound, because like if we just Y sorted this whole room against this room would get sorted behind this room. So it's almost like we would need to split this up into like a few different pieces. We almost need to evaluate the space, make a number of like contiguous canvas items that like can handle these kind of basically I think we want to split a space up like this into a series of boxes and then treat each of those boxes as a canvas item. That's a little more complicated. I mean, I can avoid this problem for now by just not making a ship that's structured like this. That's the beauty of this, right? Is like, that's the kind of thinking I'm trying to encourage in myself going forward is like, yeah, technically there is something here that's exploitable and something I can't handle. Exploitable in the sense that, you know, you can do something that wasn't intended and is not good. But also, I'm the only person building ships right now, so I could just not build. This could just be a known problem with shipbuilding, and I could just not support it at the moment, right? And it's, you know, someday further down the line when we care about mod support, we'll have to come in and we'll have to fix this. But it's like for now, we just ignore it, right? We ignore it until we can't, right? I don't like whatever's happening with the auto tiler though. I do want to fix this. I want to understand what's going on here. Why those vertical lines are getting erased whenever the cursor gets in line with, or yeah, it's like there's a brief gap between when the auto tiler starts to freak out and when the cutaway actually happens. And it only seems to affect one set of lines, not like the back set. It only seems to affect the forward set of vertical lines. Okay, I also kind of want to add the cursor bounds thing to this. What happens now if I try to build something in such a way that the system would cut itself out? So how does that express itself here? So like if I do this, I go up and I go back. Actually, what would be more likely to happen is I would actually start like up here. And then I'm like here, and then I would draw back and then down. Yeah, so I'm like cutting away the very thing I'm drawing. I kind of don't want that sort of thing to happen. And then I let go and it's like normal again. So yeah, we actually do want to prevent that. Pardon me. All right, we've reached the point where we've run out of coffee. I don't know if this one space indent is like enough to communicate what's going on here. Maybe it is. Okay, and then for this one, we would say block coords is equal to cursor coords, continue. If not, block halls.has, cursor block coords, continue. You also want to say if cursor bounds dot contains block coords, continue. So we don't want to cut away something we're actively working on. That seems fine. Why do I iterate like this? I don't know. I really want to prepare a bunch of these multi-dimensional queries I want to prepare a bunch of them, like for a compute shader or a couple of compute shaders, and send them over and then get the results back later. I really want to work something out like that. But I don't know. Maybe I don't want to go that hardcore with it. I was also looking at it, and you know, lo-fi flyby would be like kind of good on mobile. It would be kind of good. I don't know. That's a can of worms I don't think I want to open up. Rusty's Retirement's not on mobile, which I'm not surprised. That game seems to use a lot of resources. All right, so did I fix the thing I wanted to fix? If I do this, it's fine. And then if I do the other one, which is like I go up and then I build forward. Okay, there's some lag, but otherwise the cutaway is working correctly. Same thing here if I did something like okay, so the exterior cutaway thing seems to be working correctly now. Which is good. Why did it flicker for a second? Is that because it became selected? Oh, that was just a trick of the rendering order. Okay. Okay, that's okay for now. Per compartment canvas item draws. Ezra, gotta get going. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ezra. Good luck. Can't wait to see that Steam page drop. All right, so to change this, we'd still have our list of canvas item draw params, but we wouldn't fill that list by Z index. Instead, we would fill it by the room ID. That implies that room ID is a tightly packed thing, and it is, because if we delete a room, all the other rooms would get shuffled around so that we'd have the smallest. We'd be using the least number of room IDs. That'll just happen. The flood filling system will just rebuild it if something like that happens, so we don't have to worry about that. Add canvas item draws. So what we do now, draw params.z-index. So we wouldn't run it, add it to that. Instead, what we would need to know the block rooms, which we are not currently tracking here. So we need to say variable block rooms, new buffer 3D read only ints. Eventually we might have a room ID that's actually like index inversion, just to handle that likelihood that they change. Might eventually do something like that. But right now, we're gonna say we don't care. Game.world. See, I don't want to have to say game.world. For a lot of these commands, I just want to say world. And then if you're talking to the game, that should mean you're like talking to like the scene tree. I don't really want to say ECS.world, but we could totally do something like that. Wait, is ECS already a thing? ECS. Oh, it's a namespace. Okay. So yeah, maybe we should have ECS dot. I don't want to have something like this. I don't want to have to say ECS.getWorld. Maybe what you do is you say ECS.world, and when you call the world, it like knows what world, because the system would belong to a world, and so the system would know what world you're in. I'm not going to worry about multiple worlds for now. I think there is a good use case for multiple worlds in ECS systems. I think I mentioned that already. But I don't feel like I have a compelling case for that at the moment. Editor system group.preview blocks. And I think if I don't currently have a good argument for doing it, I shouldn't add the necessary complexity for it, because multiple worlds is significantly more complicated. Maybe not. Well, I'll say significantly. Significantly seems true. That seems like a true statement. The one thing we are going to have to do is we're going to have to update this draw calls list. This list of lists. Based on... Actually, you know what? I think eventually we're going to treat compartments as like proper first class like entities. Like I think an entity, a compartment will have an entity associated with it, and then we can assign buffer values to that compartment entity. So we can do things like once the editor is done running, we can bake a bunch of data about that compartment into the compartment entity. And then we can just look that up instead of having to do something else. I think that's a good idea. For right now, we're not going to do that. For right now, we don't have anything we're storing per compartment, really. Right now, we're just storing a list of draw calls. But yeah, if we can make that stable enough, I don't want to just be depending on something like that being regenerated constantly. All right, so if we take the rooms, we want to... So we can do all this block haul type thing. What we really want to do is we want to update the draw call list, and we want to ask the game to make more canvas items if we need them. So how is this tile mosaic structured? Right now, I think they're all set. Yeah, they all just sit at the origin, which is not what we want eventually. Eventually, we want them to reposition themselves based on where the... Well, maybe they don't reposition themselves, but we do want to... I guess we have to reposition them. That's tricky. If we want to have kind of like a dynamic Y sort. Because the Y sorting is just going to look at the Y position of the node itself. And so if we're Y sorting compartments against each other, we kind of need the origin of the... You know what we could do is we could do a kind of double buffering here. It's not great, but we could do it. I guess a room, our only real concern is during edit time, because once we're in playtime, the room's position is not going to change. That'll be like locked in. But the canvas items are kind of in theory shared. That's a little complicated. I mean, it's much easier to just do this per Z layer. Per like tile Z index against the camera. Way easier to do it this way. But that maximizes the number of... So like even just a small change to a set of rooms, like highlighting contents of a room under the Z index mode where it's like each Z layer towards the camera is getting redrawn. That could change, you know, dozens of these layers in one call instead of just one. Like, it'd be way cooler if you're making a change to a compartment, no matter how big that compartment changes. It'd be cool if it was just one updated canvas item and not, you know, dozens across multiple compartments. But it does mean we need a system here that can dynamically, like, pool. It needs to be able to pool canvas items and reuse them and reposition them if necessary. It's actually a strong argument for having a proper ID system. But we almost want an ID system for the canvas items in use more than we want for the rooms themselves, the compartments themselves. That could be cool if we could get this. If we could get this working right, where we update the canvas item, we redraw the canvas item, and then we swap it in and swap the previous one out. Just so you're not seeing, like, I don't know if that's necessary, but we might need to do something like that between all this Y sorting stuff. You're Y sorting, right? No, why is the tile mosaic itself not Y sorting? Oh, because right now it doesn't matter, right? This is going to eventually matter. You know, I think I'm going to make a new one of these. Just so we can test the new rendering model without absolutely destroying the old one. Let's create a node. A node 2D. Well, it doesn't really need to be a node 2D, huh? But we're going to do it. We're going to do it this way. We didn't finish looking up the consequences of how this interacts with canvas layers, but I think I would use canvas layers very carefully here. And I actually don't think we would use it within a given ship. I think what we would more likely to do is give each ship its own canvas layer if we need them to, like, overlap in weird ways. And like the background would have its own layer as well. So there's definitely stuff we can do there. Oh, we're heading into ads. We're going to take a quick ad break. I'm going to take a quick break myself. Quick bio break here. I think we're doing all right today. I think we're having a reasonably productive day. We're kind of just noodling around, but I always feel like the first day of the week is like that, of the quote unquote work week, the stream week. Kind of just figure out, always got to get our bearings again. Figure out what the most pressing issue is, which I think is this canvas item drawing setup. I think it affects a lot of things. I think it will strongly affect our approach. And I think it'd be really cool if I could get it working in a GD script context so that jam games could use it instead of having to use tile map layers for all this stuff. But yeah, we're going to be right back. Take a few minutes break. Appreciate you all hanging out here today. Happy Wednesday. All right, we're back. Thanks for hanging out. All right, what do I want to call this? So we can't, so we got to keep this all in the same canvas layer usually. So viewport children draw at layer 0. If I want to introduce like a hard difference there, I introduce a canvas layer, which is reasonable. So I want like a HUD or something like that. So that's probably what we're going to use canvas layers for. I don't think we're going to... Why sort? Actually, using the built-in... Using the built-in Y sort is going to be a little complicated. Yeah. Reasoning about how the rendering order stuff is going to play out for these canvas items is a little tricky, but I think generally, I think our compartment per canvas item move is generally correct. But I don't think canvas layer is going to come into play at all. I think we rely on canvas, on sorting our canvas items correctly. But yeah, unless we end up doing something like rendering 2 ships, one in front of the other, in which case maybe you do canvas layer those. So maybe we do a canvas layer per ship, something like that. Assuming we let one ship pull up alongside another ship. I feel like that is something we'll support for at least scripted events. Like cargo transfers or fights or something. I call this a tile mosaic, which is neat. That's a neat name for it. What I really think is something like, probably just call it like compartments. still haven't done my real spring cleaning of these projects, but I think that might ultimately be unnecessary since I've made this separate Lo-Fi Flyby project folder. I'm just gonna call this compartments. We can figure it out from there. Give it a script. Throw that script in somewhere here. You just leave it as a node 2D. Canvas item itself, I think, is like an abstract class. I don't think you can actually make something a canvas item. I don't think you would want to either. Inherits node object inherited by control node 2D. Abstract base class, yeah. So we have our tile mosaic. So instead of an item, a layer count, we want an item count. So yeah, this amount needs to be like dynamic. Oh yeah, we do need an ID system of some kind because when we remap a room onto a new ID, because let's say another room that was sharing that ID gets destroyed. Not sharing, but the last room to use that ID gets destroyed and maybe a new room becomes that one. We'll need to do a number of things, like we'll need to reposition the canvas item. So we'll need like an ID and a version. We'll need to know if we've incremented it and are reusing it or something. So we'll say something like we have a count of them. We'll need like an array. Of them. Its order in the tree might change. Well, I guess we don't want to reorder it in the tree. What we want to do is we want to utilize the Y sorting to handle stuff like that for us. So if a compartment changes its ID, meaning that like if it's not the first compartment and some compartment between it and the first compartment ceases to exist, which bumps it up, we don't actually want to move We don't want to move it or do anything. We just want to look it up differently. Or we want a dictionary. We don't really want an array. So we want like a... I don't know. I don't actually know. Actually, no. So let's actually be unambiguous about this, and let's just say child count. Look at the tile mosaic thing. So we don't actually want to start with anything in here. So func ready. Say variable, we'll say child nodes, array, node. What do we get back from get children? Let's get children. Hey, Rhiannon. What's up? Probably a stupid question. Doubt that. But I guarantee I will have a stupid answer. All right, your questions. You don't expect me to change the renderer once again, but could you build everything with just sprite 2Ds? Each block face is a sprite 2D, and perhaps use multi-mesh instance 2D to draw them? It's possible. I kind of didn't want to do that. I know that's the way that people typically do that in Godot. For some reason, I think the problem with your plan is I don't think there is a multi-mesh 2D. I think the only multi-mesh instance is the multi-mesh instance 3D. So I could do that, and then what we would probably be doing is then essentially we'd be doing this in 3D, and I would probably go a whole different way. I'd probably go the way you're going, like the way you and Nanigans are maybe approaching things with like creating shader and compositor effects to give it that 2D pixel art look. So yeah, as far as I can tell, there is no multi-mesh instance 2D, but maybe I'm wrong. I think it's like a fundamentally 3D concept. It's not a bad idea, though. And it's very similar to what I've done before when I've tried to do something like this with instance rendering in Unity. So I think if I was doing this in a 3D context, this would be very much so the thing. I like that. That blending is really slick. That's really slick. But how are we drawing thousands of these? Okay, we don't even talk about that. It's at the end here. Multi-mesh instance 2D, huh? When I search it, I don't get anything. So it's weird that this exists. All right, let's look at this. Specialized node to instance a multi-mesh resource in 2D. This can be faster to render compared to displaying many sprite 2D nodes with large transparent areas, especially where the nodes take up a lot of space on screen and high viewport, blah, blah, blah. Using a mesh designed to fit the sprite's opaque areas will reduce GPU fill rate utilization. That's nice. Usage is the same as multi-mesh instance 3D. I say. Well, maybe we are going to rewrite the renderer, you know what I'm saying? I have to think about that. Depending on how many of these we have, we might just be moving, it might just be moving the problem around. Might not actually be much more performant. Also, does it only take one texture? I mean, that's fine. It could be quite good for the background. Quad mesh and some rotation tricks. Simply using quad mesh will result in the texture being upside down. Okay, that's weird. Every time you move your instance, do some stuff. Why is it upside down by default? That's strange. So literally we just make the Y negative. That's neat. You would have a multi-mesh for each facing, you would think, and render all of the same faces at the same time. Yeah, that could be good. I kind of like this idea of a canvas item per compartment, because it would let us do a lot of things per compartment rather than just like, here are all of the left facing faces. Here's all of them, like literally all of them. Because if we set it all up where the compartment, if we render all of that stuff out, then we can do some neat stuff. We could have a shader for that canvas item, and we could do some really neat stuff utilizing whatever's drawn there. Like we could have per compartment lighting or something like that. But this could be good. This could be good. I think we're not going to run into serious performance issues at the scale that Lo-Fi Flyby is going to be running at. I think Lo-Fi Flyby is small enough scale that I could honestly just use individual sprites for everything and then just kind of be a little bit greedy about how we render that out, but this is a good idea to explore. I don't know why I didn't think there was a 2D version of this. Kind of silly. And again, you could still do the per compartment thing just by putting the instances as children of a node. Yeah, true. I guess my question would be how many of these multi-meshes would I need? It seems like I would need more than the number of canvas items that I need currently, which I feel like would defeat the purpose of it. It could be much faster though, because we don't need to go through the whole canvas item.draw. The count might explode, especially once you get out of Bray boxing. Yeah, that's the nice thing I think about our current solution, is that our current solution handles like heterogeneous textures really well. Like you can throw any number of varying textures at the canvas item and it'll be like, cool, I got this. It might not be super performant, but it's how we can have like the left faces and the right faces and the top faces and the characters which animate. I think I see a world where we could do this for the background and then do something else in the foreground. I think this is neat. I'm going to list this as a problem looking for a solution though. But this is a good idea. I've done stuff like this for, like in Unity, I did a lot of draw instanced indirect. And I had to prepare stuff for drawing like this. And it worked pretty well. It's very fast. But yeah, it's hard when you have a lot of different things that look very different. But it's good. It's easy. It's great when you're doing like voxel stuff where everything almost like where like 90% of everything is dirt. Stuff like that. Why are you distracting me, Rhiannon? Don't you know? Don't you know we have a game plan? I always get the direction wrong because it's the opposite of what it should be for me. Don't you know we have a game plan? Deliver on deadline, not scope. Exactly. Exactly. It's a good idea, though. I'm kind of tempted to explore that a little bit. Let's say if child nodes is empty. I guess I'd want to know about this. Variable child nodes, array node. You would just say child nodes equals get children. We'd say child count equals child nodes dot size. Okay, but I anticipate that our set of compartments starts empty. And I guess if it starts empty, it actually does need, like, compartment 0 is outside. So I guess we would start with just one. Shenanigans. You know, with 3D, it's usually worth the trade-off if you have more than 100 or so. Yeah, you can do that with offsets. Okay. You're in no way trying to convince you to rewrite the render yet, again. Yeah, no, I know you got more experience, I think, with that workflow than I do. I could see a world in which we pursue something like that. Like, you know what my dream one day for this tech would be to have, like, Babylon 5 or, like, Deep Space Nine. Like, have, like, a huge space station. And, like, I think at a certain point we'll reach a scale that, like, we'd need to look again at some of this stuff. But yeah, I think especially at the scale of Lo-Fi Flyby, this is going to be a non-issue. So we have a couple of functions here for removing or updating canvas item draw params. What we need to do, we need like an ability to like insert compartments. We potentially need to be able to do it at a point. And then so our tile layers are the things that actually handle the work here. So these guys, tile Z layer, that's what I call it. Okay, you handle the actual work of the drawing and stuff, but you're really simple. So the complexity we're adding here is really just in organizing those canvas item layers and updating it. So right now we expect all of these to be in the same Z index. And that's actually some of the complexity here is going to be sorting those. I wonder if I can get a collection. Like we could get an array of packed byte arrays which I guess could just be a bigger packed byte array. Like we could get this enormous packed byte array and we could do the sorting across like a multi-threaded group task so that we could sort each of these draw orders. Kind of a good idea. Because right now we're kind of cheating by, well, no, we're not cheating. We're doing it about as slowly as one could do by just doing the sorting here in the run function. Like this must be where all the time is going. But right now we're not optimizing for speed. We're optimizing for grouping. I don't know what you want to call it. Organizational grouping here. Can I write this in a way that both of these processes will continue to work? So what I need to do now, oh yeah, and we have the opaque draws, and then we have the transparent draws, and those all go together. How do we figure out what the X factor is here? Right now I just say X factor is 1 if the mask is not null. I think that's all I say. Yeah. That's all we do. We need to start calculating the Y sorting for these as well. That's going to matter a lot. We should actually start with that. We should actually start recording the Y sorting information, which is based on the Manhattan distance, I think. So I think it's literally just hull key dot. Although, wait, no, that's the Z index. That's the Manhattan distance thing. So, oh, the Y sorting is within your tile. Where are you? So that's actually... Oh, I don't actually record that anywhere. Huh. I guess we could do something relatively simple where, like, characters get Y sorted in front of environmental things. Do it like that. That's another thing we need to start working on is like baking out some of these things like the auto tiling and stuff so that we're not running it every time. Because the problem of like the canvas item, and part of the reason it's slow, I think, is it's like reestablishing a lot of information. It's processing a lot of information that it could just be looking up. I think I want to make more of a trade-off in terms of storing more and processing less, because the storage amounts in this case are like trivial. There's some other questions I have about how things are organized in some of these more complicated examples, but I need to decide how this is going to work. Like here's kind of an example. Like, what if you have something like this? What if you have like a compartment back here? Let's say you have like a nacelles situation or something, right? Where you have like a thing back here. You have like some rooms in the back. Like an engineering section, whatever you want to call it. You have some stuff back here, right? Doesn't need to be multiple rooms, but let's just say it is. So this exterior, this gets rendered at compartment 0. This is part of outside. And then each of these, so the interior here, which would include these pieces, would get rendered like this. But we wouldn't actually get to see that unless we updated compartment 0 to not include all this extra stuff that would normally get cut away. Maybe the way we need to track compartments is actually per face rather than per block. That doesn't seem great. But since it's a rendering constraint, maybe that's totally correct. And that actually could fix a lot of things. Doesn't really answer how this works. I guess the exterior that's getting cut away is still part of compartment 0. So we'd have to redraw that. That kind of makes sense. Otherwise, you'd have some weird stuff going on. And then this is all being rendered as part of this room. And then these are 2 rooms. But then who is responsible for rendering the walls between? Is that compartment 0 again? Is there really no compartment 0? Are these rooms responsible for rendering themselves? In which case, how do you handle like antennas or whatever? Like if I let's just say I put some stuff that's just weird little external nonsense. Some greebles, you know? Who draws these? Who draws the drawers, you know? So I feel like we need a compartment 0. We need someone who's responsible for drawing the outside. And the thing I actually wanted to test was what if you have like... What if you have something like this? So let's just have assume that these are connected somewhere else off screen. So this is like a legal thing, like a legal block arrangement. So what if you've got something like this? Where you've got like a compartment in front of another compartment. And they're exposed to space. Right. So the problem is you've got this stuff, right? You've got these areas up front here. These are compartments. They have a higher Y sort than these ones back here. But the real problem is that these blocks ostensibly would be also part of the exterior. And so they would render at a higher Y sort, I think, than like this compartment. Assuming the Y sort for the exterior would be the furthermost forward point. I don't think this works, you know? I don't think this quite works. In terms of having the compartments all, you know, getting Y sorted and everything correctly. I think I need a different solution for how to draw these exterior pieces and how to think about them. And that might mean having a different conception of how this is handled for like the exteriors is for the interiors. Not exactly what I want to do, but we need to do something. So like the cutaway works pretty good. It's a little aggressive, right? Like if I'm in this room, I don't necessarily care what's going on in this room. But the way our cutaway currently is handled, that's the kind of thing that happens. It's kind of why I like this idea of like masking off the cutaways. I guess we could also mask off how we want the compartments to be organized. I don't really want to have to do that by hand. Although I don't necessarily have to do it by hand. I could have a system that figures that out. But like, this is part of the exterior, right? So it's got to be rendered in front of this stuff. But this is an interior. But it has a higher Z index, I guess, because it's up higher up. Getting these all to sort correctly in order is going to be an interesting challenge. I don't have a terribly compelling answer to how I'm going to do this. I guess my benefit is I really could specify what's what. But I kind of want to have it on different layers, so like it would be nice if I don't want this lower level to be responsible for rendering the outer wall look of like here. Same thing for up here. I kind of want the outer wall here to be like its own compartment. But then how does that work if I like look in here, right? Because this needs to overwrite whatever its exterior is. Maybe it's a visibility thing. Maybe the inner compartments get sorted ahead of the exterior, but they're like toggled off most of the time. That could work. I don't like that, but it would probably do something. And it's like, do I need to treat... You know, I think we need to take advantage of the fact that we only allow single thick walls and somehow make these... Somehow make the compartment responsible for rendering itself out here. Somehow do that. But I think part of the joy of doing it this way is like if nothing's happening in this room down here, we don't need to redraw this room. We can just leave it, and then we don't have to pay the redraw. So if stuff is just happening up in this room, this lower room does not care and does not need to redraw. But this room would, if stuff's happening up here. Similarly, we don't want to have to I don't want to have to redraw the exterior just because we cut away into this, which means we probably need some amount of visibility toggling or some like sorting shenanigans so that like we can render this room over the exterior or something like that. I don't know. One more point for just doing this like sprite by sprite or block by block, you know what I'm saying? Just to handle some of these more complex overlapping issues. Yeah, I'm not totally sure how I want to handle that. That's okay. We can work on that this week. This can be our thing. Be the thing we try to figure out. Figure out our per compartment canvas item draws. The amount of little details for a system like this is dizzying. Yeah, and the problem is that a little detail can end up trumping some big overview stuff where you're like, wow, I thought generally it would work like this. It's like, yeah, it does, but in this circumstance, it works like this, and it invalidates all that other stuff, and it's like, oh, damn it. So yeah, it's a very detail-oriented thing to figure out. It is just straight up easier to do something like this, where we're just doing it by Z index, but I don't like that because it's really simple, but it's also involves a lot of updates. So if instead, you know, this whole compartment was the one layer, that adds a lot of other complexity. But maybe it's not as bad as I think. Maybe I think I'm just struggling to see what it would be. Hey, Arnie, welcome back from the sauna. I think we're reaching the end of the stream. I know we kind of just noodled around on stuff today. Oh, we picked some cutaway stuff. So, you know, we did some concrete work. But yeah, I feel like we are in this state of transition where we're rethinking what we actually need to get away with doing the things that we want to do right now and try not to think about things that are way further down the line. But I think the canvas item drawing is something I really want to figure out, because I also want to figure out if this is a viable thing to use in like a game jam. Or if I really just want to have my tile map layer stack if I do something like that in a game jam. Because the tile map layer, I ran into a lot of problems the last game because I was using tile map layers. Pretty much every time I've used tile map layers, I've run into problems with them. I like them a lot, don't get me wrong. They're really cool. I should probably think about how those solve some of these problems. But yeah, there's some interesting problems to think about. I think the canvas item drawing one is the most pressing, but in kind of the background, it's more like there's a lot of questions around. Okay, so we're building multiple games in this universe, out of this kind of technology of varying scope, and it's like, which part of it's shared, which part of it is like unique to the specific implementation. And like right now, I'm thinking of all of this stuff as shared, but it's like the reality is Lo-Fi Flyby has very specific needs that our bigger FTL-like has different needs, and figuring out where those needs diverge to the point that it makes sense to do something totally different in terms of some key underlying system, it really is the question. In a lot of these cases, it's really the question that needs to be resolved. And it's the kind of questions we're asking. So, you know, we are doing it. We are doing the thing. Oh, excuse me. This little style guide is getting less and less. Every day it looks a little less like what we're doing. It's like I can see how the block structure is very different. Even the doors now are very different. I can't wait till we start to get more art, even if it's just mock-ups, faked mock-ups like this, of like a cargo bay and like our character hanging out in like her like cockpit. Stuff like that. I'm excited. I'm excited to switch to content, but I'm definitely not. I feel like some of our systems are still kind of shaky. Work's busy, game dev is fun. Those are always true statements. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. We're approaching the 3-hour mark, which is typically the end point. And I think I'm gonna think about this a little tonight while I'm working on something else. That's how you know you're gonna do the real design work, is when you're working on something else purposely, so that your brain is like free to like in the background just be like, actually this other thing needs to work this other way. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up for today here. Appreciate you all. We'll definitely be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, same problems. Hopefully some new solutions. Yeah. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, Jacob, Arneo. All right. Hey, P. Gorley. Good time for you to join the stream. Excellent. That's fine. I feel like I would only disappoint you, P. Gorley. What we've been working on lately. We'll catch you next time. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. You all have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you all next time. Bye. Oh. Bye.
Maximum warp.